That is good water, but I will say that it's coffee. No, the reason why is I had my coffee before the show. I'm just like, caffeinate.
Yeah.
And then when I'm on the show, well, actually, I will say this. The caffeine already kicked in. You know, we have a coffee.
Yeah.
And it's like, whole show, I'll be talking with you.
Wired.
It'll be fun. It'll be friendly. But the whole time I'll be thinking, So if you see my face go... That's what's happening.
It means you need to go to the bathroom.
Gerald Day is in the room with us. My half-Asian lawyer, Bill Richmond. Quarter Black Garrett, Audio Wade. Goebbels on the overlays. By the way, this is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Good morning, MugClub. And if you are watching right now live at the Blaze, you can chat with us. Of course, we will read your chats as we go on with the show. That's nice. A little MugClub perk there. Of course, everyone else who's not MugClub, $30 off, louderscutter.com/MugClub. Enter in the promo code quarantine. That's good through the end of the month. Credder Bits, we also have podcasts everywhere podcasts are sold or free.
We're everywhere. So much stuff.
What else should we get to? Let me think. We have a lot to get to here today. We have we're going to talk about Barack Obama funding the Chinas.
Huh?
Wow.
Funding the Chinese.
What? Who knew?
The Chinese. They Chinese, but he dumb.
China.
And funding them after the one-child policy that they enforced. And I was there in Cancun, Mexico when, what's his name? Ted Turner was talking about that.
Yeah, being a good idea.
Rode in on a bison. And
what? 2 bison.
Then, like skis.
Yeah.
Slalom.
We'll also be talking about Shake Shack, Ilhan Omar. What else? Why Brian Stelter's a bitch. So we'll get to all of that. But my question to you is, have you guys heard about the report, by the way, that Barack Obama did fund the bat coronavirus lab in Wuhan?
Yeah.
Did you guys know about the experiments?
Yes, but I just read about it. I didn't know it at the time.
Did you think that? Do you think anyone in the United States has any business funding any of that overseas? These labs where they're doing the bat stuff. Hey, let's see what's going on at CNN. There's a guy right there who looks like a Jungle Book character.
Thank you for that question.
I think he needs some eye drops.
We are.
Why does he keep?
In the greater Boston area.
No. That's how he hypnotizes you.
No, it's SOS.
Next week.
He's like, get me off this damn channel, please, someone.
I thought I was talking with Blitzer this morning. I get Poppy Harlow. Speaking of which, quick fact check here, by the way. Do we have it? Just was breaking on CNN. Shake Shack. Shake Shack was. They gave back some of their stimulus money, right, for small. But people got really mad because they're saying, why do these giant corporations get this money? So they gave it back. If I were Shake Shack, I would give the money back and immediately everybody off. Just lay them off.
Just lay them off and be done.
Like, that's it. This is so fun when they go trickle down to why are we giving this to businesses? Well, what do you think is going to happen if they can't employ anybody? It's nice for you to have a check and basically a free vacation, but you know what? If you want a job when you come back, we do need to support the infrastructure that actually creates the job.
That does help occasionally. They are so screwed, by the way. This is virtue signaling at its finest. They received the $10 million loan, which means they went through the loan process thinking it was a good idea to get the money in the first place. They have $100 million in the bank, their latest SEC filing showed, and now they got public pressure to give it back. They can never lay anybody off again because then they'll be screwed either way.
Right.
Oh, you gave the money back? We know you have $100 million. Why are you laying anybody off?
I'd keep the Shakers, but I'd lay off the Shacks.
Yeah, I don't like those guys either.
Unnecessary.
They don't see it seems superfluous.
No. Why? Why? And why a shack? In this day and age? Come on. Like a castle? A small brick home?
Yeah,
something.
Exactly.
They should have kept the money.
They used to take pride in marketing. It used to be White Castle, and we all knew it was a shack. But now they say Shake Shack, and we all know it's got the new sconces on the wall and that weird horizontal
like a
wood
shack.
pallets that you see at every single church.
You know what they also have?
What?
That Coke machine that has all of the flavors in one.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so
The
you know
one?
you're getting the flavors of all the different drinks.
You're just getting it mixed.
Nothing's pure these days.
No, that is just a dopamine surge that really, I mean, it's worse than pornography.
They yell at me when I stick my head in it.
Cheese shanty.
Terrible.
Cheese shanty?
Remember? Cheese shanty?
Don't use that word because it's a small local mom and pop shop, and I don't want other people to know about it. Good Lord, he's going to reveal all my spots. You want to give him my after-work schedule, Gerald?
They have no idea where this place is.
Before we get to Brian Stelter, we have a long video. Ilhan Omar, she now it's been found out that she's been using donor money to pay the firm that she had an affair with. The guy who owns the firm is the guy she had an affair with.
She did the guy.
So she used, donations and/or taxpayer dollars to pay the marketing firm of the man with whom she had an affair. So it's not enough to be a terrorist sympathizer. Now she's got to be a cheating whore, an embezzling cheating whore.
Yeah, and all she has is taxpayer dollars. She
Really?
works for the
That's
government.
right.
There is nothing else.
dollars.
It's monopoly money at this point, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, at what point? I mean, I guess it's sort of reverse prostitution.
I don't really know how you.
What is the
reverse?
Yeah.
It's the opposite of.
Let's talk about the science of reverse prostitution.
All I know is he must be a great lay.
Right. Oh
Which, by the way, you had your first year anniversary.
I did yesterday.
Did you social distance?
Sorry.
The only way, by the way, to
I almost
social
said something I would get in trouble
is
for.
2 prophylactics and a very long penis.
Wow.
No social distancing.
No?
No.
You don't have any of those?
Coupling.
Coupling?
You know,
Like 2 rail
Did you have
cars.
sex on your anniversary,
Jeez.
Gerald? I think that's what we're implying here. Good. Okay. Good for him. That's the
I think I did 2
that
thumbs up.
face and the thumbs up. The implication there gives children nightmares.
Yeah, it does.
That, and if only you could fit in Joe Biden sniffing.
Yeah.
Wait,
No.
I think Nambla just found their new posters.
It's gonna be you, not me.
Did everyone here have a good weekend? You have a good weekend?
Yes.
Good weekend.
It was a fantastic weekend. It was
Social
nice
distancing.
weather.
And just
No
to be
social
clear,
distancing.
we are not all in this together. I want to be very clear about this. I recognize, when people talk about privilege, I recognize that I am actually privileged in the sense that this does not affect me nearly as badly
Right.
as someone who has lost their job on a manufacturing line,
Right.
who lives in a small apartment. I live in a decent-sized home. I don't go out a whole lot anyway. Like I'm really
Yeah.
recluse. I'm a homebody. This is far harder, for example, for like an 82-year-old diabetic nightclubber. This has got to be hell on earth for him because he's lost everything he loves.
Yeah.
So I want to be clear.
Sorry.
In setting up the context as to why, and I feel like I pick on him a whole lot to the point where it borders on bullying, but I don't care.
It's just border.
Brian
not across the
Stelter,
line.
I saw a tweet about this, and then I'm touching this because I'm uncomfortable. Because I know I have to watch that fat gay face. Sorry,
It is-
married face.
Oh, yes,
Right.
true.
To a woman.
Brian Stelter talked about hitting. Let's just play this. This is Brian Stelter because he's just like you.
It's okay to not be okay right now. That's the main thing I want to say to everyone watching.
Okay.
All of us are grieving, whether we sense it or not.
What?
All
What
of
does
us
that
have
mean?
lost something
What?
in the past few weeks.
You ever accidentally grieve?
Some have suffered the ultimate loss of a father or mother,
that's how grieving
spouse
works.
or relative. Others have lost livelihoods. They've lost access to family and friends.
I love how he skims over
Just losing
livelihoods,
the
where that
rhythms
is the
and
one that affects
routines
the
that make life
vast
what it
majority
is
Right.
of people.
is a profound loss. We're all grieving.
Do you look at notes? Look
I
at
have
notes.
to admit to you, I had tried to bottle
Watch.
it all up.
Really?
I guess I was trying to be stoic for my wife and kids. It wasn't until
Regular Epictetus.
this Friday night that I hit a wall.
You hit a wall.
I was supposed to be finishing my nightly newsletter that I mentioned earlier. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't get it done. I was so gutted by the death toll. I was
Is that so
angry
Marcus
about
Aurelius?
the ignorance in Washington. I
My
was
grief ate
so
my
worried
homework.
about family members and friends who are at risk of losing their jobs or who have already lost their jobs. It was that mix of emotions that many of you also feel.
Also his hairline.
And that's when the tears came.
That's when the tears came.
We don't talk about this on
Also,
TV
when I
much.
realized
I think
that
we
I'll
should
never get
change
to
that.
meet George Michael.
I think we should talk about this.
Really? You think we should
Almost
talk about
everybody's
this?
experiencing
Because we've been
either
doing the
isolation
opposite
or
of that.
stress or anxiety or other emotions as a result of this crisis. Look, let's remember, we've never lived through something quite like this. We have nothing to compare this with.
Yeah, we do.
it can be
Far worse.
When did CNN turn
be
into an
incredibly
op-ed for
depressing.
Teen Vogue? You can feel your feelings, and he loves
Also,
you.
you can answer
Even
us
if it's
at
just posting on Instagram,
CNN.com.
or taking pictures,
All-time
or
best,
writing,
Devon Sawa or
journaling,
JTT?
Messaging others, talking with others, FaceTiming. The emotions are real for everybody. They're a big part of the story. For me,
Can someone just put an overlay in there where between we are all grieving and CNN it says about we are all grieving about
please.
The
CNN?
reactions were extraordinary.
Or
the
for
outpouring
CNN?
of reactions was extraordinary. I'm still getting hundreds of emails from readers about this. And
For him, that's an
why I
event.
hope you can
I
relate
know,
to
right?
this as well.
Notice he
Like,
doesn't
like
say
someone's walking in like with like emails, like maybe physical letters, like someone's walking in. We have all these letters for Brian Stelter. And throw them on the table with a Santa
sack.
Claus sack.
there's just all AARP membership requests.
Junk mail.
No, Hair Club for Men. Hair Club for Men.
They related to this.
One of them was my
Here's what
glad
Melissa
renewal.
wrote to me on Twitter. She said, "It's okay to not be okay right now."
It's the wrong overlay.
And here's another person. So we need to grieve what we've lost and to acknowledge anxiety.
That's a squirrel.
Yeah,
that's not an overlay.
Not at all.
Okay to not be okay.
So my message to you is, when
I think we
someone
got the
asks you if
message.
you're okay right now, tell the truth.
No. We need to let him make his point.
It's okay to not be okay.
We've heard it 3 times.
That's,
And 25 years ago today
Today?
was the bombing of the federal building in Oklahoma City.
I thought we have nothing to compare this to.
Nothing
It
at
seems
all.
to me that's a little more severe.
That Americans are mostly mean and selfish. They ought to come to Oklahoma. If anybody thinks Americans have lost the capacity for love and caring and courage,
they should ask
ought to
your
come to
boyfriend.
Oklahoma.
They should ask
That's
every
true
other
now for
person on
every
CNN
state,
who
every
dogs on
community.
America like every other minute.
Right.
Most
You
people
kidding
are
me?
good at
All of a
what
sudden he
they
loves
do.
Oklahoma?
Right.
Yeah. And America?
For the crisis
Mm-hmm.
timeline.
I think this is the first time he actually used the word Oklahoma instead of flyover country.
Right, yeah.
There's also the disaster distress hotline, the helpline. We will put that number up as well.
Wait, that's his number.
We're all gonna get through this together.
Yeah.
There's also the
You can even
disaster
email me.
number
My email is
hotline that
bstelter
you
at
can
gmail.
call for a good
Reach
time.
out to me.
He just gave out his email.
Let's
Own
be honest about
Yes.
our
Oh,
emotions,
God.
talk
This
through
is
it,
live, and we're going to be
recognize
accused of
it's
doxing.
okay.
Right?
Hey, he did it.
We're going to be accused of doxing
on
a fat
him.
gay guy.
not our fault.
Here's the thing. It is, of course, okay to not be okay. And I understand the irony is not lost on me when I try to be authentic and vulnerable at the end of these shows. Usually, we do those crowded closes. That being said, at this is not that point. This is, I hit a wall. Really? Okay, now I would understand if he hit a wall if you had COVID-19.
Somebody in your family,
Or if
maybe?
your family,
Yeah.
if you actually lost a direct relative, of course you hit a wall. But
Or if
you
you
hit
got
a wall
fired.
because of the news that you are peddling all
the
the
letters.
time.
It's the letters.
And what's amazing to me is we have nothing to compare this to. I was just watching, and it's a little heavy-handed, the Plot Against America, which is, if Lindbergh had won instead of FDR, and I can see all the implications that, Donald Trump in America first, and he must hate the Jews, even though his son-in-law is Jared Kushner, but I digress. Anyway, it's still a pretty good show. But I was sitting there going, when people talk about how this is unprecedented, right, the new normal, do you really think, and I get it, we need to take precautions like we've talked about. We've always encouraged you to wash your hands, sanitize, mask.
Basic
I
hygiene.
just think we need to be accurate about the numbers.
Right.
But it is remarkable to me to compare this to, say, how do you think Americans felt when you're talking about fear, or really anyone across the globe, when France surrendered and there was the Blitzkrieg? In London. You don't think that was a little bit scarier, watching the Nazis march through Europe, knowing that we are next unless we enter into possibly the bloodiest war of all time? That's what we thought. We're going, man, we don't know what's going to, we're going to lose a lot of lives. You really think, imagine, just to put yourself in that mindset, France surrenders. Do you have any idea how spine-chilling that must have been back then? And you want to compare that to your coverage of COVID-19? It's not even close. Now, it's not. Of course, every life lost is precious. We understand that. We always have to say this, because if you don't say it and you don't make sure there's 30 seconds of context where you talk about all the heroes and the first responders and lives lost, people say that you don't care. But the fact is, we all know that, right? Let's move on and being accurate about the numbers. But to act as though you hit a wall because this is the hardest moment in American, it's not even the hardest moment in our lifetimes when you compare it to 9/11.
Well, did he hit the same wall in 2009? I'm sure we can go back and see coverage of that when 60,000 people died from the swine flu that year. Right.
Yeah.
I'm assuming he hit the same wall because he said, "I'm gutted by the number of people that died." And I'm like, well, nobody wants people to die, but
or the 2017 flu year, which was like 70-something thousand
this
for
isn't
flu.
That different.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's different.
I mean, I get that it's hitting you now, but you also don't seem to be very genuine in this as well.
I thought he was just sad he doesn't have anything else new to say.
I've run out of things.
I mean, guys, you got to give him a little credit. He's run out of things to say.
Right, and that's
just
heartbreaking.
Sour, fat, bald man. I mean, like
Sour Patch, fat, gay, bald man.
I don't want those candies.
I think we should send him some Snickers. It'll make him feel better.
Someone photoshopped that. I want Sour Patch Stelters. First they're sweet, then they're gay.
But rainbow colored.
I guess they already are rainbow colored.
Oh my
It's just amazing. This is also a guy too, when you're talking about privilege, who somehow got his foot in the door by selling something that wasn't worth anything and working at CNN. Like,
how?
There is no redeeming value there.
I need to know the backstory.
I don't understand. There needs to be some kind of talent. I get that at least Chris Cuomo was like telegenic.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been often told that I myself have the gift of gab, though I would prefer it were welding.
Yeah, something practical.
Something
useful.
A little more practical.
Arc or spot welding?
Yes.
Could you
But
imagine?
it's just, I don't get
pig.
what Brian Stelter brings to the table, and now it just seems like this is what they hit a wall. Like, what are you running the Boston Marathon? I don't understand. I hit a wall. I had to co-sign a newsletter.
Yeah. If this
Someone
story,
else typed it up. I used A/B testing. An automated newsletter, and I had to put my name on there. I said, I can't.
That's when the tears came. Oh. Is he like a first responder? Is he on the front lines, like working every day amongst sick people, helping people like that? Is that what he's doing? Or is he actually in a studio making millions of dollars and totally fine?
Hey, he works at CNN. It's filled with sick people. Yes. Have you ever watched their coverage?
But he's already been infected with that.
Yeah. Well, he was the first responder in the department store when Moscow and the Hudson defected. Can't you hear? He's defecting! That was when he was the first responder there.
Oh, my gosh.
So, can I make one quick...
Yeah, you can make whatever you want.
No,
it's the morning show.
Yes, I'm kidding.
Love you, Gerald.
That was his joke.
You notice within a few days of Cuomo kind of having a break and speaking honestly about his feelings about CNN and their hyper-partisanship, and et cetera. You also have Stelter saying, I'm hitting a wall. I can't do, this coverage, all this crap that we're peddling is like actually getting to me. Like, I can't really spend the dollars as quickly as I would like to cover up for the feeling of horror that I have in peddling
I know.
this crap.
I mean, he's just wishing for the days of Jussie Smollett to come back.
Please,
when he can get back to honest-to-God news.
All right. We don't really have that much to offer you here. I just wanted to touch on it. Let's go to another story here right now. Florida beaches, right, they're reopening. And it's amazing that this is as controversial as it is. I'll get to why in a second, and I want to know what you guys think. Republican, obviously, Governor DeSantis. Right now, this is being covered everywhere. I think we have a clip.
Meanwhile, some states are already starting to ease restrictions. In Florida, very popular beaches like Jacksonville, Neptune Beach, and Atlantic Beach, they're open today. Governor Ron DeSantis gave the green light despite the growing outbreak, but those beach mayors specify they're open for exercise purposes only and not for tanning nor gathering in large groups.
I'm looking at a fat guy on that beach who's clearly not exercising.
Not exercising.
I don't know if it was Stelter's double who they had to, because of the social distancing.
I was exercising.
It
just caught me while I was taking a breather.
And unfortunately, the first beach they name open is Jacksonville. It's like, that's where dreams go to die and people. So this is obviously, it's been trending. Leftists are outraged everywhere on Twitter that, morons in Florida. And let me be really clear. If you go to the beach, you should still practice certain precautions.
Right.
Now, what I saw there were couples who were walking hand in hand, as couples do, and then other people, and they were relatively far apart. And I know some people aren't necessarily obeying them, but this is, to me, entirely reasonable. It's amazing to me that people are saying these people protesting, going out. First off, they're not really protesting going out to the beaches anymore, just to be clear. They're actually going out there and obeying the law. But it is amazing to me that people are upset that the beaches are open, but not upset over the fact that in New York City, the subways have always been open. The subways are rolling Pringles tubes of farts.
It's already a cesspit, so you can't really do anything about that.
It is disgusting. And by the way, they did say it could be the source of the virus spread, like subways. That's absolutely terrible. And people say, well, we need the subways for the economy in New York. First off, the economy has kind of stopped a little bit. You can walk, you can ride your bike. The weather should allow it if you're an eco-friendly activist at this point. And if you want to talk about the economy in Florida, it's almost entirely reliant on waterfront activities. Just ask the mayor of Amity.
So it's great. So let me get this straight. So large open spaces, bad.
Wide open spaces.
Petri dishes underground in New York, good. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing.
I still have the Dixie Chicks in my head.
And every time they mention the subway, they talk about how it's necessary for the economy.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't understand. I thought you guys just said you don't care about the economy.
Right.
Yeah. So am I allowed to go for a walk in my neighborhood? Because that's kind of like going to a beach.
You
if
really
I'm not
pronounce the L like in walk a lot.
Walk?
Like
Yeah,
walk.
Woke.
Like
Wolf.
wolf.
What are you waltzing while walking?
Not.
Are you walking like this?
I walk.
3, 4.
Yeah,
There's
1, 2,
listen.
3, 4. 1,
There's
2,
an L
3,
in the
4.
word, and I will pronounce it.
That's fine. I don't begrudge
will.
you. I don't begrudge you. I was just noticing.
There's nothing more
pretty
entertaining
defensive.
in any given week than the hills that Gerald chooses to die on. I write them down in a little notebook and I just giggle.
I love it.
It's the L in walk. Walk.
I will not say walk.
I'd like to see that Battle of Bunker Hill history tour. Gerald, just there you go. There's where Gerald died, and there too. It's like that's not even a hill.
No.
It's more of a moat.
It's actually a depression in the
It's a
ground.
pit that I threw myself into.
Wait a second. This is just landfill. What is? He chose his resting place. So
I did.
This is something else that is pretty important too. When you compare also subways, right? Subterranean, with subterranean sick alien, that stuff. By the way, Radiohead, I don't know if you ever listened to OK Computer, but I always felt like it kind of gets me a little bit disoriented. York said that was the design of OK Computer was to make people kind of nauseous. Like, what?
So what it kind
Good
of feels
for you.
like art.
Yeah.
There's some great songs, and then it's also just a bunch of crap.
And a bunch of
what are you doing, York?
Don't you know art is supposed to bother you?
Yes.
Supposed to cause
Art is supposed to be irritating. So when you compare the subway to Florida, there's also, remember Donald Trump was mocked for saying that, this could go away in April.
Yeah.
Now we know that sunlight actually seems to be killing COVID-19, according to some new studies. That heat,
Doesn't last
humidity
well.
are bad for it, and specifically direct sunlight can kill it very quickly. Now, this isn't entirely definitive, but every study that we have available to us says that it is helpful. So that's a good
vampire.
thing, especially if you look at the numbers
Yeah.
between sort of southern states and where it spread more rapidly. I think the average temperature, we'll talk about this a little bit later tonight. I'll do a little bit more of a deep dive. I think it's very low, and this a very low humidity. So there is a trend. There is a correlation. They looked to see if there was a causation by studying this virus with UV light directly, and turns out that sun kills it. So if anything is going to be open, the New York subway, where people relieve themselves on a regular basis in the pit of filth and sadness that is New York City,
And just do bad rap.
or the open air with salt water and UV light. Take your pick.
Yeah.
I think it's. By the way, are we just now realizing that there's a flu season? Flu season's not during the summertime. Haven't we known this for like 150 years that
Right.
flu tends to spread during colder months?
We've
that
known
lower
it since
humidity?
Doc Holliday.
I mean, come on. This can't be news to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Really?
Doc Holliday had
Out there,
rickets.
Yeah.
Was it?
that
No,
what
he
he
had
had?
TB.
No,
TB.
TB.
Okay, yeah.
Who was
'Cause
the
he coughed
kid who
up
had the
blood.
rickets?
I don't
I don't know. Rickets was vitamin D, right?
I don't
Rickets,
know.
and then TB was what? They
Probably
just-
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said, sorry, Mr. Culkin, I hate to diagnose you with it, but apparently you have rickets. It's old hat.
Can I get a genuine reaction, please?
Any more thoughts on Florida quarantine?
I hate Florida. Oh, by the way, South Carolina just followed suit and said, yeah, we're opening too.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
their
wow.
beaches
Yeah.
as well. So it looks like
and then-
everybody's
yeah.
going to open their beaches in warm climates and be like,
Yeah, so the MSNBC anchor said something about, like, despite the growing numbers, like, adding one is growing.
Right, yes.
So,
Right.
like,
yes.
it will always be
one.
growing until
Yeah.
there is no more cases.
You know
So
what
it's-
else is growing? Adding 3,700 that were never even tested for
Yeah,
COVID.
that's
That is
also-
also a number that can
Little
contribute to
disingenuous, yeah.
growth.
Hey, pull
true.
some more out from the morgue. Let's just add to that.
Yeah, this guy has a knife wound. Best not to take chances.
That knife had COVID on it.
That knife-
Don't put COVID. Put complications from COVID.
there you go.
This guy
Gives you the most
crashed his
leeway.
car, but we have strong reason to believe that before he crashed his car, he went, COVID!
And that's what caused the crash.
Yeah, that's what caused the
Yeah.
I
crash.
didn't even know. Yeah.
He was watching Brian Stelter and his little little icon.
Didn't see through the tears.
too, Brian.
I'm not okay. It's okay to not be okay. And by the way, it is okay to not be okay. Just like, this is what's the thing with Brian Stelter. I was just watching a 30 for 30. Did you see this on the Duke Lacrosse?
I've
That's
saw
a
that.
great one.
It's
That's
good.
actually a really good
It's
one because
great.
I didn't know a whole lot about the actual evidence of the case, and that Nifon, the guy
Yeah.
who was prosecuting,
Right.
how he actually withheld evidence and actually lied about DNA evidence. He was disbarred. The guy who actually was
wow.
prosecuting, completely disbarred, like
As well he
very
should have been.
quickly. Yeah. So the problem with that, right, is that it does a huge disservice, as we've always talked about, to women who are the victims of a horrible
Actually,
crime
yeah.
Yep.
like rape, right? It's okay
Yeah.
to not be okay when there is something that makes you not okay. But to simply say you're not okay because of the coverage that you have peddled out there to try and make people think that it is hopeless, that's not an excusable reason. And this was something this is really true. My therapist just laughed the other week because we had something we were kind of going through, and I was talking about how, listen, as men, we don't always we have to control our emotions.
Right.
If we're experiencing something that bothers our wives, let's say a familial issue,
Right.
They can cry, and men can cry, but I said, the thing is, I know that me being really emotional would make my wife feel less stable. I can be sad, but I can't fly off the handle, so a lot of the times men, they're like a dog who has to go off into the woods to die. We go and we sort of cry by ourselves.
Yeah.
My therapist laughed. She's like-
Really?
She's like, you
They're not
feel like a
supposed to do
dog
that.
has to go
Therapy
off into the
works?
woods to die? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do dogs do that? I'm like, don't you know they go and die alone, not
yeah.
to disrupt the pack? She's like, well, okay, it's a good analogy, but we need to dig deeper into this.
There's a few layers we need to peel off.
It does a disservice to there's nothing wrong with crying as a man.
Right.
Obviously.
Of
And that's a
course.
very new thing that really kind of started in the 40s and 50s, this false machismo. If you look at Abraham Lincoln, you look
Yeah.
at George Washington, you go back to any of these great men, they all cried. They would kiss each other on the cheek. They were very affectionate. passionate. It wasn't like you had to be a jock or an artist, right? You had to be a well-rounded man. All across the board. That being said, to say that you hit a wall and you were crying because of your coverage of COVID-19 is a gross disservice to when a man needs to cry in front of his wife because, his bulldog died, or because they have something going on with or cancer, right? Or even
like
something
issue.
happening. Yes, a real issue.
And I think you're right. Like with somebody like Brian Stelter, he's part of the problem. It's like if only we could find a solution to this problem. If only I didn't go and make this sound worse every single day. If only I did not provide context for every single stat that I'm throwing out there to make Americans feel like this is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Just don't go to work, Brian. Yeah. Do us all a favor. Stay home.
Stay home.
You'll feel better. We'll feel better.
Self-quarantine
Everybody
yourself.
wins.
Yeah.
I think it's easy.
I like this solution.
I like this solution as well.
It's a reasonable solution.
It is the best. You know what?
Where's petition.org?
That's a good hill to die on.
That's a good one.
I chose a good one. I'm
Hey.
glad to find you dead on that hill.
Hey, can we
Thank you.
I'll put on a poppy for $1.50 every year and give you a visit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Can we talk about the fact that it's been 10 minutes of chloroquine talk on CNN?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Let me see.
Yeah.
What's this?
They're talking
Ooh,
about
boy, that's a long
Hey.
that's a long nose bridge.
She was a doctor on Grey's Anatomy, and now she's on CNN. It's fine. What's the problem?
Only you can make that joke. What's her name?
I don't know. Sandra Oh.
Sandra Oh.
Understand more about the specific treatments.
So here's what's really interesting is they've been talking about how they're moving forward with major pharma testing.
Yeah.
They're interested in seeing the results.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And that there's some potential that it's going to be a part of
Yeah.
a treatment regimen.
Right. Yeah, it already works. The only one, and we'll talk about it later, the only one that didn't was a Brazilian study where they used far too much of a dose. And what's remarkable to me is you see Young Turks and CNN and ABC going, well, this is what we were afraid of when they're talking about chloroquine.
Oh, of course.
Right? They go, this is what we were afraid of because there was no evidence that it was effective. And they cite one small study in Brazil, the only study that I know of that used significantly over the recommended dose. By the way,
really?
they used a high dose and a slightly low dose. They had to cancel the high dose, and they continued with the low dose because it actually, from what we know, could be pretty effective.
Yeah.
But they had to cancel the high dose. We know that about hydroxychloroquine. It's dose dependent. There is
Right.
a curve,
Yeah.
right? But it's remarkable to me that they go, there's no evidence that this works. And they go, see, this could be deadly. They had to cancel a study. Well, hold on a second. What about all of the other studies that were
Right.
peer reviewed? What about all of the other studies that use the appropriate dosing and actually sort of eliminate for these other cofactors that could contribute to one's health? Like, obviously, you don't conduct a study if you're looking at people who have heart disease or high blood pressure.
Right.
We know that you shouldn't be using that. So there was no evidence whatsoever. And then you have one study from Brazil that used too much and they canceled half of it. And you go, now we know for sure. Well, what happened to the whole evidence scenario?
You know that in the pitch meeting for that, when that came across, hey guys, look at what I found. Like everybody's face just lit up like the Grinch, like with a smile that goes all the way up. Like, yes, he was wrong.
Exactly.
One study.
And unfortunately, the people taking the high dose, their heart grew 4 sizes that day.
The big-hearted amongst us.
Caused them to burst open, but
And all they left in the house was a stint that was even too small for a mouse. Do we have actually, right now, do we have McBrody? So actually, to see what we got wrong and an update, because we don't necessarily have time to go through all of the news, it is time for the morning after with senior news correspondent Brodigan. All right, Mr. Brodigan, are you there, sir?
Okay, yeah. To start off, happy birthday goes out to Joe Rogan, Snoop Dogg, Matt McConaughey. Surprisingly, both Cheech and Chong.
No, okay, Brodigan,
Chappelle.
it's not. No, it's not their birth. It's not their birthday today, Brodigan. I want to be clear about that. Yeah.
They weren't all born on 420.
No, they weren't all born.
No.
No. Okay. Did you catch any of the president's briefings over the weekend? There, senior news correspondent.
Okay, yeah. So Trump announced his 3-point plan to get America back to work.
Okay.
Step 1, steal the underpants. Step 2 is a secret. And then step 3, America profits.
No, Brodigan. That's actually that's from South Park. Okay, you're confusing the plan with a Facebook meme making fun of the. That's not news at all. I don't want to get snoped. What else do you have?
Oh, okay, yeah. Trump also named his council to reopen America. It includes Dak Prescott and Zeke Elliott, Chris Cuomo, Lady Gaga, a 90-year-old woman who said she was out of beer, former WWE wrestler The Revival.
No. Okay, no, Brodigan, no.
Yeah?
No, yeah. Yes, thank you I appreciate you listening. The council, it's Jared and Ivanka. Okay, I want to be clear. Then there's the Treasury Secretary, the Commerce Secretary, and what you just talked about, as a matter of fact, I'm quite confident, those were just people who happen to be trending on Twitter.
What were they trending for?
I don't care.
I think it's because they're on the commission.
Logic.
Okay, so one last bit of Donald Trump news. He did in fact.
Is this one last bit of Donald Trump news?
This is one last bit of Donald Trump news.
Okay,
This is big.
Okay.
This is big.
All right.
He did, in fact, it's been joked about, but he did, in fact, give Joe Exotic presidential pardon. Smooth Maddie, can you bring up that clip I sent you?
We don't have a clip.
We don't have a clip?
No.
No. Wait, are you talking about the clip from... No, that Brodigan, that was a clip that we did on... Is he talking about the thing we did on the show? That was a bit we did on the show. Donald Trump did not pardon Joe Exotic. We did a bit about it on the show.
I saw it reported on Facebook.
No, because someone shared the clip on another Facebook page. Okay,
right.
I don't even think... Are you already...
Really?
Brodigan, are you... Brodigan?
Yeah?
Brodigan.
Yes.
Look at me. Are you drinking already?
What I do online is my business. That's guy use ExpressVPN.
That's not how the plug works. I've had enough. This has been Morning After with Brodigan, everybody.
Hey, so why do we?
Whoa, here we go. We're back.
Why do we have the Duck Commander giving us our news?
Yeah, I don't know. He did a really bad. I mean, he could take over for Stelter, though. I think.
I think he could do a much better job. Here's the one thing, though. When it comes to drinking, Brodigan never hits the wall.
That's true.
He just busts
Walls
through
typically hit
He
him.
just finds another wall.
He's like the juggernaut.
It's true.
It's like a Tony wall, really. All right, hold on. Let me see where we are after this. Okay.
He's like the Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, true. Truly.
By the way, thank you, ExpressVPN. ExpressVPN.com/Crowder. I think you get... I don't know. You get something off, and of course, BlackRifleCoffee.com/Crowder. You get 20% off. But ExpressVPN, we use it. We did it with the Tulsi Gabbard thing that we did on YouTube. Use ExpressVPN. We did it. What was the recent Rhett and Link?
Rhett and Link.
Yeah,
Where we moved our comments.
It's an extra 3 months free off of a year.
And I guess I have to say, Brand X Nord had a security breach.
Wow.
And they didn't let people. Well, this is public news. I can say that, right? NordVPN had
they had a breach. I don't care that you're naming them. That's all public news.
No one knew about it for a year. So when I have to decide between a VPN that has a security breach and covers it up, and one that doesn't. I mean, there have to be other deciding factors, but it's a big one.
Is this a trick question or?
It's not a trick question.
Oh, okay.
For you, it might be.
ExpressVPN.
So, let's get into.
Always destroying that coffee bag.
Yeah,
sorry.
I have to fix it every.
You know
show.
what I have? I have something. There we go. I had a popcorn kernel stuck in the back of my
Every
all
time.
day.
Oh, I hate that.
I was brushing. I got the electric brush. I got the floss. I got the water pick.
Popcorn is a celebratory food item, Stephen. Come
What?
on.
What are you
You
talking
eat it
about?
like when you watch movies. It's like
That's what I did. I was
fun.
watching a movie.
Yeah,
you don't know what.
you shouldn't be doing
Don't
that.
tell me
You shouldn't
when
be
I.
doing
Don't
that
tell
at
me
this
about my
time.
popcorn eating habits. You see this? He picked another hill to die on. It's when I can eat popcorn.
Exhibit A, another terrible hill to die.
No, that's Exhibit Y.
Yeah, that's true.
How many
I
exhibits?
think we're running out of letters.
Exhibit
AAA.
AA.
What do they do?
Back
I was
around.
going to ask you, what do they do in court when they run out of, just the alpha, the first?
Double A, triple A.
Double A.
Really?
It's
Wow.
like baseball. Yeah.
How far does it go? Like, has it ever gone beyond like triple Z?
I've seen 4.
Really?
I've been in a trial where we had
Quadruple Z?
Yeah, I mean, because that's if you think about it, that's only like around 100, 125 exhibits.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. I guess.
So actually,
That's
a lot
more
of
than
time,
the exhibits they have at the Gerald Ford Museum.
Right.
They only
exactly.
have 3.
It's just diapers,
off.
and that's it.
Go to your point, and then I have my point about the Gerald Ford Museum.
My point was just that's a terrible hill, Gerald.
I know. I heard it a minute
No,
ago.
the Gerald Ford Museum is in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I lived there
Yeah.
for a very long time. And when you,
I thought you made it up.
no, and it's sliced like a piece of pizza. It's like a triangle. So you go in, it's like Gerald Ford, and it shows that he played football in Michigan and all that. And then by the end, you walk back, and there's just an Elvis exhibit. Oh. What is this? And it has a picture of the
Thought we might
Elvis
spice it
guitar from jail, but they don't even have the guitar. Like, this is less than Planet Hollywood.
Pictures of like actual displays and put them up.
It was
this
pretty
is
much
a museum.
It was, and it's sad because Gerald Ford actually seemed like a supremely decent man.
Yeah.
But he was just known for sort of the pardon. So there's like a little bit of
Right.
time on the pardon, and then Elvis.
And videos of Chevy Chase falling.
Yes, exactly.
I don't know what
So it's
always
it's
funny.
boring
It's
towards
not
the
a
end.
very interesting museum, is my point. All right, here, let's go to this story. Barack Obama, right? This turned out, and you were right about this, Bill, the lab in Wuhan. And I didn't want to peddle any conspiracies because I know that we'll get snoped here on the YouTube. We have to be really careful about that, even though it wasn't necessarily a conspiracy. Right. Turns out that Barack Obama actually, the NIH under his rule, I was going to say rule. That's such a horrible way to put it.
his leadership.
They funded the Wuhan virology lab that ultimately leaked coronavirus to the world. So we know that there was a lab
3.7
going
million,
on right now. We know that it may not have just come from a wet market, that it could have come from a lab and gotten to the wet market, but we do know that the lab has something to do with this. Let's go first to President Trump's response.
The Obama administration gave them a grant of $3.7 million. I've been hearing about that. And we've instructed that if any grants are going to that,
hey, that lady was fetching.
Area, we're looking at it literally about an hour ago and also early in the morning. We will end that grant very quickly. But it was granted quite a while ago. They were granted a substantial amount of money. We're going to look at it and take a look, but I understand it was a number of years ago, right?
So you are.
When did you hear was the grant was made?
I love this.
2015. Who was president then? I wonder.
Oh! You know he heard her the first time when he said the year, and he's like,
So
wait a minute, what was the year again?
I will say this: Donald Trump doesn't tend to throw to the audience. He's like a lawyer. He never asks a question he doesn't know the answer to.
Yeah.
Where'd you hear it? I know where you heard it. Fat gay Stelter. Who was president? Do you know? I can't off the top. I don't know. Obama. He doesn't ask a question.
Exactly what he does.
He doesn't throw it out if he doesn't know the answer.
He's twisting the knife when he does that.
If he doesn't want someone room to play, he goes, excuse me. That means he wants to control it. When he asks you a question, you damn well better give him the right answer because he's going to give you the right answer.
Right.
Better be quick.
So
better
funny.
be quick. I think there was only one more thing he could have done was like look in the camera and just mouth Obama. Next time. That's for the next one.
Yeah, he's saving it.
I would have enjoyed that.
Birth certificate. Don't think I forgot. So, there's some new documents that have been showing the labs, their experiments by both the bat coronaviruses. Concerned officials in 2018 in the United States stopped sending assistance over to the lab.
Rightfully so.
In 2018. So this is also important to note because this shows a sequence of actions, right, of us having funded it at some point and then stopping it at another point, and then, okay, maybe people wanting to say we should start refunding it. I don't know exactly what's going on, what they're talking about on CNN right now. Italy considering which antibody test to adopt for national. Nobody cares. The Obama administration, this is something else that is really disconcerting to me. They funneled $340 million to the UN Population Fund that, of course, helped with China's one-child policy, where, of course, women were hogtied and forced to abort. So people don't know this. The one-child policy is basically a policy in China where they say you can only have one child because of population control. I was at the Cancun Climate Summit. This is back when it was called the Kyoto Protocol as opposed to the, is it the Paris Agreement?
The Paris Accord.
Paris Accord. It was the Montreal Agreement, Kyoto Protocol, and now it's the Paris Accord.
They have to come up with
But
different
back when it was the
names each
Cancun
time.
Climate Summit, it was the Kyoto Protocol. We even did a montage. Everyone's saying Kyoto Protocol, because that was the buzzword of the day, and they all flew to Cancun because they couldn't do Zoom meetings, which now we know they should be doing.
Save the environment.
You know what? I do a Zoom meeting at my office, and I go there in a Hummer.
It equals out.
So I remember Ted Turner there praising China's one-child policy.
Yeah.
It was remarkable to me for someone there. This just shows you that they are Team World, Team Gaia, and anti-human. I think we should keep our stuff clean. I think we shouldn't. You guys know I want to keep the office clean. I hate polluting. When I see someone throw some trash out the window, I'm furious because there's no reason to not put it in the trash can.
At all.
Of course, we should do our best to be good stewards of what we have here on this earth. That being said, people take priority. And back with the Kyoto Protocol, when you would have looked at the skyrocketing energy costs, that was the package that I did back then. It would be inconvenient for Americans, and it would thrust third world countries into a plague of death, the likes of which they haven't seen in the modern world, because they too deserve their industrial revolution. So Barack Obama supported the one-child policy, funneling in millions, hundreds of millions. What is it? 300? How much money? 340 million. Oof. I almost said 350.
You would have been wrong.
I almost used the rounding error, and then
Stephen
underneath
wrong.
this on the YouTube, it'll say, for all info on COVID-19, go to Washington Post and
Right,
Snopes.
exactly. So there
For
was,
Pinocchios, bitch!
right around the same time, I guess, that this was happening, I saw a TED Talk on population control. And this is, I'll tie this back into China's one-child policy.
You saw a
but
TED Talk, or you watched a TED Talk?
I went to.
Were you a passerby
SMU. Yeah,
at a
I
TED
saw
Talk?
it was happening. I watched one in a live audience that was streaming. Right, so it's all confusing.
While climbing a hill,
Exactly.
Gerald spotted from the
I was in a chair.
summit.
And
Gerald and Jill got up the hill, and then he died.
Yeah, and it was a really small hill.
I was in a chair at the time.
And so in this presentation, they had a chart, and they said, here are these different countries' population per kind of family, right? Like how many people that they have, how many kids that they have. And what they said is we want to institute policies that push everybody into the bottom left, which was near zero, right? Or under one.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because that kind of policy led to China having the one-child policy, thinking it was a great idea, but it would have the same effect on everybody else. And the entire room was applauding, saying this is how we should end the world, basically, because we aren't going to have enough kids to propagate anybody's culture anymore. I think you have to have like 2.4, 2.5 per family to do that. And everybody was cheering
and
it.
That's
People
really
from the government that were in the room cheering it. I'm sorry?
So it's really unfortunate for the 0.4.
It is, yes. They don't get to be a full child.
That comes with selective breeding, the midgets.
Nice.
How do you choose to give birth to a midget? It's difficult.
I guess my point is that it was a bad idea that the government was peddling back at that time as well. So the Obama administration isn't just supporting the one-child policy. It goes much further than that. That was just one iteration.
And I guess your point was just a little boring. But
it was.
Bill is asleep.
Jerk.
Gerald, just learn how to edit.
I tried. You guys threw me off my game with the whole hill and dying thing.
So, Gerald, that's a really good point.
So
brevity is what you're saying.
One thing I also want to make sure, I'm getting this, he is the only president since Reagan, Barack Obama, to not cut off funding to the United Populations Fund. Wow. So it's not like, everyone did it and then everyone went along with it and Donald Trump put a stop to it. Yeah. Right? And that would be nice if he was singularly unique. No. In this case, Barack Obama is the one who was unique. He said, one child. Yeah, I'll fund it. Hold on. Wow. Who's that guy with the Bagger Vance haircut there on the left? Sorry, Gibbon.
Very young Mitt Romney.
Congress close to deal for more small business aid. Well, I hope it doesn't include those pricks at Shake Shack.
Nope. Yeah. It would already be done if the Dems hadn't stood in the way.
God help me if Five Guys applies for a loan.
You know, what's funny? It's like all the people at Shake Shack were like, "Oh man, sweet, our payroll's gonna be." Oh no, it's not.
It's gone.
Gone.
Okay.
You guys are not rehired. Sorry.
Yeah. Adios.
But forget about the never-ending peanuts at Five Guys.
They have that?
Yeah, never-ending peanuts. What are you? Oh, do we have some chat we want to go to?
Well, we do have our next segment ready to go.
Our doctor? We do have. Oh, okay. Well, then we have some more. We're going to talk about Dan Crenshaw after that, and a little bit more watching. But we have him ready to go on the Skype. Okay, so this is actually a new segment. I want to be really clear. For people out there, because people really had a positive reaction to this guest last time he was on. My personal doctor, and he talked about COVID-19. It was a very, I would say it was a very measured approach and a very balanced approach where we didn't need to panic, but we needed to take the proper precautions. So a lot of you said we like him. We would like to see him more. And so this is a new segment with Dr. Choi that we'll be implementing. We call What's Up, Doc?
Dr. Choi. I am a Korean.
All right, Dr. Choi, are you there, sir?
Yes.
How are you?
Problem with the audio.
Really? Well, it sounds like you can hear me, Dr. Choi.
I can hear you. Yeah. Not through my earpiece.
Well, yeah. Well,
can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you just fine. Yeah. There you go. You're looking very chipper, and I know you're on Pacific time, so I appreciate you getting up early for us. How is your practice going? Last time we spoke with COVID-19, are you doing well? You're keeping safe?
Yeah, I mean, we're still kind of semi-lockdown, so only the essential businesses are open. So, I mean, we are considered essential, so we're open, but I'm not seeing any routine visits.
Right.
That does make it, dangerous for the patient. So we're just seeing urgent visits.
Okay.
And just taking a lot of phone calls from the patients and testing some patients.
Are you making sure that they're wiping off the phones after they talk? When you talk with them on the phone, do you make sure that they sanitize the phone, because that's the dirtiest place in your
I tell the patients to sanitize their cell phones multiple times throughout the day.
Well, that's good. That's a good precaution to take. That's why you're my doctor. So you know what we're going to be doing. Actually, some people here at the office, Dr. Choi, they don't all have health insurance yet. Actually, Quarter Black Garrett, I believe, had some questions for you about a current condition.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is yet, so I'm hoping you can
a condition that he has, and so Dr. Choi is aware. We've sent a picture, Dr. Choi, I believe, to his email, audio Wade?
To his phone.
To his phone.
Send a text.
And Quarter Black Garrett, just give him a briefer here, what it is, and we can show it to the audience so they know.
I'm experiencing some abnormal discharge from my lower region.
Okay. And since this is a big thing now, too, is televisits with doctors. So we want to see,
trying to help it. So also, I'm having some severe burning from
whenever I pee.
And Dr. Choi, you do this a lot on Skype, and you do televisits, like Zoom visits with people, especially during this emergency. Based on the picture that you have there, and Garrett listing kind of some of his symptoms, what do we think is going on?
Oh no.
Okay.
Yeah, you got the picture?
Yep, I got it.
Okay, and we can show it to the audience here real quick so they can see.
Yeah, here's the picture there.
And he said discharge and burning, Dr. Choi.
It's very.
What do we think might be going on here?
Yeah, it looks like STD.
Really?
Oh,
whoa. Wait, hold on a second. That
doesn't make.
Do we know how or what kind? Like, I guess what questions would you have for Garrett here that might be able to clarify what's going on?
Confused.
Well, one, is he sexually active? If he's sexually active,
all the time.
Is he monogamous or does he have multiple sex partners?
Monogamous.
Are you sure?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. You're not a swinger or anything? Okay.
Nope.
No? All right. Nope. He's saying one partner and he's monogamous, Dr. Choi.
And for how long?
For as long as ever. I've only ever had one.
Because they only had sex with one person for 2 months. But then they may have another sex partner 2 months ago.
Nope. So. Just one.
Just one.
Wow.
Is there anything else? What kind of an STD do we think it could be, Dr. Choi?
Okay. What part of the body is this?
I'm not. What? Quarterback Garrett?
It's around my anus.
Oh, okay. He was saying it's around his posterior.
I try to use the technical term for clarity.
Yeah. So does that help? Does that help hone in on what it could be? Because STDs.
Yeah, I mean, and you also have to worry about the anal cancer. When you have a growth there.
Okay.
Okay.
Usually occurs in people who engage in anal sex.
Okay.
That's not the case.
I don't know about that, Quarterback Garrett. Okay, Dr. Choi. So your official it seems like you would probably need Quarterback Garrett to come in and maybe do a full physical to.
Yeah. Correct. I mean, take the history like we're doing right now, and then examine the patient, and remove the lesion and check for it.
Okay, so
and if there's a discharge,
like a biopsy,
and then of course if there's a urethral discharge, then you have to take a sample of that.
Okay.
And check for other STDs like chlamydia, gonorrhea.
Okay.
HIV.
Or potentially anal cancer.
Even HSV, herpes simplex virus.
Okay.
Oh, that's a lot of things. There's a lot of things in that list.
Condyloma also.
Oh wow, that sounds.
This looks like anal warts.
Okay.
Genital warts.
Okay. Well, we have to blur it for YouTube, so they can't see. But that we appreciate the. And if there are people at home, Dr. Choi, who might be suffering, because this is a big part of the show. We have lots of people watching who might be suffering from something similar. What precautions should they take to avoid this, and what should they do if they think they're feeling some of the symptoms like Quarterback Garrett?
Well, one, obviously this is sexually transmitted, so if you want to avoid it, abstain from sex.
Okay.
If not, make sure you use your protection.
Okay.
Birth control pills do not protect you against STDs.
Well,
that's got to be a barrier, so a physical barrier, so condom.
Okay.
And two, be monogamous. Be conservative with your sexual practices.
Okay.
So have one partner. And then if you have symptoms, you've got to talk to your partners, and you got to actually come and see your doctor and get tested.
Okay.
Because most common STD in this country is chlamydia and gonorrhea. Chlamydia and then the gonorrhea. So that's why we always check the chlamydia and gonorrhea together.
Okay.
And if you don't treat this in time, then it can actually become more systemic.
Okay. Well, then we're
with the gonorrhea, you can even get meningitis, infection in the brain.
Okay.
Which is a rare complication, but it can happen.
Right.
And which is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So you want to get these.
I think I'm just going to go with it.
And you also want your partners to be treated.
Yes. Well, I promise you, we will have Quarterback Garrett go in for an examination. Absolutely. It's actually it's boss's orders at this point. I'm the Shake Shack.
I don't think any of this
I'm the Shake Shack right now, and I'm determining payroll. We appreciate it, Dr. Choi. Anything else that you want to let people know out there to stay safe with the COVID-19?
Well, we're still on a lockdown, I think, as an entire country, and I think that is very prudent right now. And we seem like we're getting over the hump, but if we're not very careful right now, then we can have a second wave.
Right. Okay.
So we do need to be very careful. Social distancing, wash your hands, wear your masks Now the CDC, the government said the general public should wear the mask when they're in crowded places. So wear the mask and be safe out there, and don't go out unless you have to.
Right, and those same rules should probably apply to Quarterback Garrett across the board. Dr. Choi, thank you so much for being with us. We can let him go. We really appreciate it. We'll have you back soon. This has been What's Up, Doc?
I'm Dr. Choi. I am a Korean.
All right.
I lost a lot of respect for Garrett.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I don't believe any of those things. I think he's a quack.
Hey, Garrett. You're a great person.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Listen, we love you no matter what, but take the color bars off my screen here.
I'm talking about, hey.
Yeah. All I'm looking at are color bars on my screen because when I see people calling by Skype, then it goes to weird color bars.
Yeah, I want to ask him a question. When people drive around in their cars with their mask on, is that effective?
Yeah, right.
Because that's like the dumbest thing that I've seen.
Gloves.
Right.
You got in your car in the garage, drove somewhere, got out for 2 seconds.
No,
and the
the
entire time,
Corona is in the back seat.
It's got to be.
Never
in the car.
know.
You
I
never
saw
know.
someone driving, but then they would take down their mask to vape.
Yeah.
I saw someone do this. It was one of those motorcyclist masks where it had like the skull and crossbones.
Right.
I was like, well, come on, you just want to dress like the bully from Karate Kid.
Oh my gosh, that is.
This
awesome.
isn't a medical device.
I love it.
That's not FDA compliant. That's the Karate Kid costume.
Oh man, that is awesome.
All right. By the way, hey, hit the notification bell if you are subscribed on the YouTube and you're watching on YouTube right now. Hit all notifications because apparently just the notifications don't mean a whole lot.
Weird.
And of course, subscribe on Apple, iTunes. I guess they don't do iTunes anymore. Spotify, wherever they're sold. And do consider joining MugClub.
Apple.
Loudofcutter.com/MugClub quarantine is the promo code. You get $30 off. It's the only thing that keeps us going. As well as Crider Bits has been doing pretty well for us lately
Fantastic.
too.
Fun little spot.
So we appreciate that. Okay, so then I guess the last story we should talk about here is Dan Crenshaw.
Oh, my hero.
Was on
whooping it, man.
Yeah.
What? Your hero?
He's doing a fantastic job.
He's an American hero.
Okay,
He's an American
this is a good
hero,
example.
Steven.
Not only does he die on hills, he doesn't take lifelines when offered them. Like you could just say, like, I said, your hero. You'd be like, well, I mean, I admire him, but you stuck
I
with
didn't back down.
my hero.
I didn't back down.
Okay.
I do how like sometimes we'll try to move on, but then Gerald will just
Bring
wait
it right back.
and then just like sneak it back in again, and we're like,
It's like, no.
oh man,
I have a few more points on this.
yeah, no, hold on, I have a few more shovels.
I have exhibit AAA.
Are you in with like the Gotti family where you're trying to shave points off this show?
No.
Gerald, I went in on that.
Like, listen, Gerald, just make it go an extra 20 minutes. You don't gotta ruin the show. You don't gotta get them banned or demonetized. All I'm saying is just make it go a little while longer. They want to move on to something relevant, you pull them back a little bit.
He's got an over/under on likes and dislikes, right?
Yeah.
It's like we got to cover the spread here, guys.
It's a bear market. All right. Like mobsters know bear and bull market.
Exactly. I'm sure they do.
You can tell I know a lot about the world of sports betting.
Yes.
Now he's defending the mob. Gerald, you're like the worst undercover
Wise
mob
men
guy.
do.
You know what? I wonder if the mob is really. I wonder if the mob is really pissed about Silicon Valley because they're effectively like the new mob right now. When you look at like Google, Twitter, Facebook, they can just step in and destroy your stuff.
Yeah.
So I wonder if the mob has their claws into the digital space at all because that would be interesting.
That would be very.
Or do you think they're proud? Like, my little babies.
What are you talking
Grow
about?
up so fast. The mob.
Oh, the mob?
Yeah, they taught Silicon Valley so well.
Oh, yeah, taught Silicon Valley. Okay, I thought you were saying like they had babies that they were I didn't know what I was thinking. Honestly, I'm still distracted by your.
Don't talk. Don't bring it up.
Don't
Don't bring it up. It hurts just talking about it.
Monogamous, huh?
100%.
Do we need to get him a donut?
Yeah.
I'm sitting on one right now.
Yeah, he's sitting on a donut. Okay, so Dan Crenshaw was on with Bill Maher, and I will say this about Bill Maher. I don't have a whole lot of respect for him. So there are people who are funny on the left, and like Jon Stewart was one of them. Stephen Colbert at one point was one of them.
Yeah.
Bill Maher, you see this when he doesn't have a crowd, and I will say this: I've witnessed many a time people who've gone to Bill Maher's show and had to deal with the crowd. They are very much like trained SEALs.
Yep.
I mean, not only every crowd has a crowd animator, right, with an applause sign and a laugh sign, all of that. They have a warm-up act. But Bill Maher, it's very, very clear that you are Team Bill Maher and not anybody else there, provided that they in fact are backing up Bill Maher. So if like Hesse Cup goes in and makes a point that reiterates like what Bill Maher said, okay, you're allowed to clap because she effectively was communicating Bill Maher's point.
exactly.
But anything else, not allowed. And you see it very clearly when he's trying to do this stuff from home now, without the audience. Because Bill Maher's thing, he has like kind of like Janine Garofalo, right? It's like men.
Yeah.
And everyone laughs. Bill Maher has this where he does the hand, and that's the cue for him to laugh. That's his cue, and because when he does this, when he says, and when you look at Republicans, really, they're all closeted homosexuals, these people. And then everyone goes, right? But then he does this to silence, and he's like, he just looks kind of Stelterish.
A little effeminate.
He looks a little bit Stelterish here.
Sad.
And it doesn't work, and so I also think maybe it's been hurting his confidence.
Yeah.
Because he had Dan Crenshaw on the show, and Representative Dan Crenshaw, who's a friend of the show. And, of course, I want to be very clear. Representative Dan Crenshaw, very nice man, cordial man. Yes. I don't agree with him on everything, but cordial, respectful, and, of course, not a homosexual. But you would be confused from this clip because it's tantamount to rape. It's very close. Yeah, I felt like I was watching
Turn Away.
an episode of Oz.
It's more of a power thing, really.
If Oz had taken part like in upstate Maine, whereas two whiter guys. So here is Dan Crenshaw talking with Bill Maher. And to be clear, the context here, I don't know if we have it in the clip. Bill Maher said, I want to talk about the issues and stop covering tweets and stop covering social media. Let's talk about what's actually going on. The second that Dan Crenshaw decided, all right, let's play by these rules, Bill Maher tries to zigzag and faster than Gerald can die in a hill. Let's watch it.
There are still people coming in from China.
There are still people.
Foreign nationals.
Yeah, okay, let me address that because I know that's what people are saying right now. But the reality is, it was about 40,000 people came in after that. These were U.S. citizens and green card holders and passport holders being repatriated. U.S. citizens.
Talking about the
so you
ban
have to
in
make
China.
the argument then that
American
we
citizens
shouldn't
coming
allow
back
them
is
in.
not the same thing.
It sounds to me like you're fully agreeing with President Trump on this when everybody else disagreed with him. And if you're saying that you wish that travel restriction had been more extreme.
Where's my applause sign?
Fine. I mean, you apparently had the foresight.
Look at him. He's looking off. He's like, someone help me.
Did, but the fact is,
what's the lifeline of applause?
If Joe Biden was in charge at that moment, he's already said he wouldn't have done it. He criticized it at the time. Nancy Pelosi actually proposed legislation to stop it.
He said anyone who wants a test can get it, which is still completely.
Okay, let me stick to February.
Completely wrong.
As you go forward, because you mentioned February 25th. The day before, February 24th, that's when the administration requested $2.5 billion from Congress.
Shit! Dan Crenshaw brought
CDC,
receipts.
NIH, and FDA funding to combat the virus and the potential spread of it. What happened right then? I'll tell you because I was in Congress and I know what happened. Did we vote on a supplemental funding bill? No. Did we wait days to vote? No, still didn't vote on it. You know what we voted on later that week? Nancy Pelosi, the only thing she would put on the floor to vote on was a bill to ban flavored tobacco. That's what actually happened. It was only a week later.
Notice, by the way, they go full screen away from Bill right now. He's great!
Somebody in there with his mouth open.
Is the goal to make Trump look bad, or is the goal to get to the truth? Because there's two different sets of answers for that.
Well, without the audience,
Somebody
I
call
don't
an
know how to
ambulance.
answer that. And by the way, that is a legitimate eye patch, Bill Maher. He didn't buy that at a novelty sex shop. I know you think that he may have after that, that it was just to, because the rape. So my point is, it was as thorough of a debunking as you can. And I will say this: Dan Crenshaw is not always that way. He's been on our show, and I felt like sometimes he didn't necessarily give the answers that I would have liked to have heard. But this was incredible because I think this is a perfect example when you see Bill Maher here with Dan Crenshaw. Bill Maher is used to this working.
Yeah.
Because he's surrounded by people
that agree
with whom it works.
Yeah, exactly.
And now you take those people away because of the quarantine, and he thinks Donald Trump didn't do enough. Anyone who has looked at the timeline, anyone who's followed the timeline, anyone who saw Donald Trump present that petty, childish, and perfect video at his presser with the timeline knows what actually happened, knows that you had de Blasio and Nancy Pelosi encouraging people to go out and eat in Chinatown, knows that there was a China travel ban, knows that obviously they were looking for testing earlier and they tried to send in people from the CDC. They know this, but Bill Maher wants to focus on mean tweets, and it works with people around him when presented with evidence there. Irrefutable evidence. You may not like Dan Crenshaw. You may prefer Bill Maher. It is undeniable in this instance that Dan Crenshaw was correct, and Bill Maher was incorrect.
Absolutely, and Dan Crenshaw's point is that we were working with information that we had. There's this big thing out there right now that everybody knew all this was going to happen. Right in February, we lost February, this whole last month, and he made this point. It's like Italy didn't start closing their country until later. Spain didn't do it until later as well. Like in March, we didn't know exactly what was going on. We were gathering information and trying to do everything we could to prevent it spreading with what we knew. But that was it. What did we have, like 125 cases?
Well, then they try to slip it and they go, well, that's just because we didn't have testing. Okay, the point is, when you say, well, why didn't we shut things down earlier? Because there were only 100 cases, or maybe at this point, depending where you're talking the timeline, no deaths, or even if there are a couple hundred cases, even if there are 1,000 cases. You think that the American public would have stood for a shutdown at all? And then they respond with, well, that's because we didn't have enough tests. That's irrelevant to the point that you were saying we should have shut down when we only had 100 cases that we had tested for. Sure, would have been nice had we had tests earlier. Would have been nice had we partnered with private industry earlier as opposed to relying on the CDC. Would have been nice if we had private industry stepping up and making masks and protective gear and ventilators like they're doing now when the government has screwed up so the private sector is picking up the slack. Would have been nice for all of those things, absolutely. But that's not what you said. You said, why didn't they start a quarantine or stay-at-home order earlier? Because there were only 100 cases, at which time your folks were saying, go on down and eat cat in a stick in Chinatown.
Yeah. And right after President Trump did the travel ban, Nancy Pelosi introduced a bill that would have prevented him from introducing any more bans.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember that.
I know.
Wow. It was like the no ban bill. It was like, what?
Right.
Are you serious?
Well, and keep in mind, too, again, they're playing politics with this, where they thought they could seize upon the travel ban from China, trying to compare it with the Muslim ban, which, by the way, was from 7 countries designated by Barack Obama. So they were going, oh, I know, we made this sound like a Muslim ban, when really it was a temporary moratorium on people coming from these countries that were hotbeds for terrorism. We were able to make that work. Let's do the same thing and try and tie this China ban right now to xenophobia, as Joe Biden said. Joe Biden said he wouldn't have done it. He said that he thought it was racist. It was xenophobic. They tried to present a bill to stop it because politically they thought they could damage Donald Trump. Screw up! You screwed up! You screwed up! You screwed up, and your constituents screwed up. They trusted you. That's it. End of story. Let's move on. It is remarkable to me when I tune into these leftist shows. I'm like, but that's not the timeline at all.
No. And I just appreciate that Dan Crenshaw did this. He did another video as well, I think, that just kind of had the same kind of points in it. I think that's why he was so well prepared, and he just didn't stop. He wouldn't let Bill Maher chime back in because he's like, look, you've got to say this entire spiel on what's been going on. None of that's true.
Right.
Here are the facts, and just laid it out very clearly.
I do like the idea that Bill Maher being kind of stripped bare of the audience to jump in and laugh, because all it would take for him is to do the hand flip, even when someone else is talking and the audience laughs and cuts off the speaker, but not in this format.
And by the way, and if it doesn't as well, he can still cut it. That's another thing too. I had a producer at Fox talk about how funny they thought Chelsea Handler was, and I was like, no, that's just not my thing. I remember talking about, because at the time I thought Red Eye was a great show, and talking about how I really wished that it had more viewers and had more kind of promo behind it. This person was talking about how they thought Chelsea Handler was really funny. I said, well, the reason comedians don't really respect Chelsea Handler, and not only comedians but actual hosts out there and entertainers, is because she would tape an hour and run a half hour. And it's the same thing with Bill Maher. He will tape and then he'll edit it down. And so I do think that everybody out there, if you're going to do a mainstream show, particularly in front of a live audience where you don't have control over the cameras, you should have some kind of a recording device if you're in a state where it's legal. Because they do try and catch you and change the context. And that just doesn't fly anymore. And he can't do that when he's on a Skype. And if he and I think he probably would have wanted to do it, but had he done it, he probably knows that it's not all that hard for Dan Crenshaw to hit screen record. Even with the depth, obviously, challenges. He can still find that button. He just needs to put it in dark mode.
He does, definitely.
Easy.
By the way, don't you love that we got in trouble for, can I say that we got in trouble for saying that Dan Crenshaw looked like an angry pirate?
Who got mad at us?
People on the left. People on the left, yeah.
What? We forced people on the left to defend Dan Crenshaw?
I can't remember if it was Twitter or YouTube, but that was an actual quote. It's like, you mean when he was on the show?
Oh my gosh.
You're offended for him?
Oh, man.
We also get made fun of for the jokes that I tell about Asians, about
really?
myself.
Really?
Even. Yeah.
So you get made fun of, or you get read the riot?
No. Get people who are like, well, that's clearly a violation.
Is your Chinese social score going down?
No, it's going up because I'm a spy.
Oh,
yeah. Come on, man.
So it counterbalances.
It counterbalances. He's what McCarthy was talking about. Let's go to some chats before, and then I'll close a little bit of Inside's Baseball. Speaking about Fox News.
So we have a chat from Thad. Love what you guys are doing. Now that I'm a MugClub member, I can talk with you guys. When do you see the states start reopening?
Well, they already are.
Yeah.
Some states.
Partially.
Yeah. I mean, and I think some people, again, this is because of the presentation of the left. They've tried to make it sound as though it's a total reopening or a total shutdown. No, what you're seeing happening is beaches where people can go for exercise. They still need to practice social distancing. I mean, read the three-phase plan out there that you can see. It's a very, very reasonable approach, and you're seeing this in quite a few states where they are easing some restrictions for businesses and then gradually moving to, rather than determining what is an essential business, determining what is non-essential.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I just reverse it? I don't care.
Whatever. I think May 1st is probably what you're going to see a lot of states use. That was the original end of this period of shutting down to begin with, and so I think a lot of states are just going to kind of play it safe for a few more days and then start gradually opening, and then May 1st will be the day.
Yeah.
People start opening them
a bit
more. The day that people will start opening up other businesses and other
There's no
things
question
a
that it's
little
going to be. I mean, first of all,
It's gonna be a process.
You've got a lot of different states that have a lot of different, kind of political purposes and what they're going to do, and different economies that are affected in different ways.
Yeah.
But not only that, you have a vast diversity of, areas within the states themselves, right? The counties or the cities. And when you look at the more rural areas, there's no reason why, just given the nature of those areas, they can't ease the restrictions a little bit more.
Right.
But it requires attention. There's no headlines. There's nothing sexy about saying, okay, here are certain areas that we're going to do, and here's certain businesses and certain locations. None of that is going to be headlines. None of that's going to be CNN. None of that's going to be, everyone panic or,
Brian
it's open or all the way
Stelter
closed.
He doesn't have time for the he hit the wall. He can't give us the
He can't see through the tears.
Can't go on any longer.
So yes, and I think you're right, Gerald, that by May 1st, you're going to see more of those things start to implement. And what people should not be looking at is this a complete open or not complete open, right?
Yeah.
I would tell you that any state that
It's
says
not opening
we
game
pull
day.
back all the restrictions, everyone go down to your local stadium and pack in, right? No one's doing
Nobody's
that.
gonna do that, yeah, I
But
agree.
you would think that that's what was happening based on the way the reporting's going.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right,
We have a
another
related chat, actually. Zach from Michigan, just talking about Governor Whitmer. He said he's just curious, if I take my fishing boat out and receive a fine, is this something that they can actually do, or is there any legal action that could be taken for denying my constitutional rights / freedom, considering we do live in the USA?
That is an interesting question. Bill, what would happen? Let's say someone took a fishing boat out and were given a fine.
So I don't follow Michigan law because I don't care. But but here's the reality, right? Every county has their own rules, and if the rules are there and they're written and they're clear and they're being communicated, you should follow those rules. Here's the practical effect. Let's say it's unconstitutional. You and your boat. You're going to go hire a lawyer and fight for, spend
Right,
$50,
yeah.
$100, $250,000 litigating your right to go out in a boat. Maybe not, right? I mean, it's a tough situation. But that's the practical reality and the impact of these laws is, they'll have governors and, county commissioners and mayors who will just go, well, let's just go ahead and write this law. We're going to write a 3-page law, and we're just going to say nobody can go out and do this thing without actually thinking about what the practical impact of that is. So in that situation, you should follow the law. And even if you think it's unconstitutional, you're probably going to have a bigger problem just disobeying it.
And more sheriffs, I would support you guys flagrantly disregarding the unconstitutional regulations from the governors.
That's the place where we need to get more guidance is the local politicians. We talked about this before. When they decide to go and a sheriff says, I'm not going to follow the governor's rule because I think it's unconstitutional, they are putting their dicks on the line right there in that moment and saying, we're not going to prosecute it in this county, which is fine, or we're not going to arrest people in this county. They may face consequences. They may be ousted.
And it's a horrible position to put sheriffs in. People who are the kind of police officers who you want right out there, and I get it, not all cops are perfect and not all cops are bad guys. Let's be really clear about that. They're human beings like any other profession. But the kind of cops who you want taking that oath are the kind of police officers and sheriffs that you see in Leelanau, is it Manistee County? I don't know, there were a few in northern Michigan. Those are the kinds of police officers you want because they're saying, hey, listen, I don't want this authority. I'm not granted this authority to tell people that they can't use their fishing boat. I'm not going to fine them because I am here to uphold the constitutional law of the United States. It's a horrible position to put those kinds of officers, the kinds of officers and sheriffs who we want out there in when you demand that they enforce unconstitutional regulations. And that might discourage people from becoming police officers in the future who you want being cops. You end up with nothing but mall cops and rent-a-cops who are on a power trip. We don't want that. We want sheriffs who say, I don't want to exercise this authority.
And you know what's we call this the Batman investigation rule. I don't know if for anyone who follows comics, there's this like running joke in the comic books that they would have a Batman task force, and it would be like the most junior, blind, deaf Helen Keller detective in a room without any lights, and they're like, "All right, go get him." because they just didn't care. They didn't want to get him, and that is within the discretion. There is the ability to say, "Oh yeah, we're upholding it, and we got our best guy on it.
We're doing our best."
Helen Keller, how's it going over there? I mean, you just don't put your energy into it. Right now, of course, if you're flagrantly violating the law in front of a cop, now you've put that cop on the spot.
Right? No, of course.
You know what I'm saying, and you're not even giving them an opportunity to look the other way.
No, exactly.
And there's a prosecutorial discretion even at the attorney, the DAs and that kind of thing. So you know what I like about this is America finds a way to have common sense even when the politicians and the media is saying otherwise.
America finds a way.
That's true. Well, and I think that's what you do as a citizen in these situations. You find out, no pun intended, the hill to die on, right? I choose really bad ones. You should probably choose better ones.
Yeah.
At some point, this becomes something where you go out on the lake in a boat just to protest, right? But I don't think we're at that point yet. I think what they did in Michigan was great, where they drove into the Capitol and they just basically locked everything down. They were still social distancing from one another, but they did something in protest saying, hey, this isn't right. And also they pushed back and said, look, we don't like what you've done. And guess what? We're going to vote. We're going to vote, and we're going to use that to get people out of office that have done that. And by the way, Wade edited that question. It was Governor Whitmer, and he skipped right over that.
Oh, do we have any other chat?
I just thought it was too funny to say on air.
Yeah.
So we do have a couple more.
Okay, give me one more, and then I think we have to wrap this up.
Okay, Becky D says, I want to say thank you to the Louder with Crowder crew for opening my eyes. I used to be in the Bernie camp a couple of years ago. I really appreciate your specific brand of talking through arguments. Thanks from your atheist, vegan, Latina superfan.
Well, what do you mean we opened her eyes? Was she like was she a 6-week-old puppy?
She could have been.
She was.
Maybe she used to be Asian.
6-week-old Bernie puppy.
Well, good. Well, thank you very much. We could use some more vegan, atheist, Latina 6-week-old puppies.
Yeah. There we go.
But thank you very much. I appreciate that. And that means a lot. Thank you guys, everyone out there, of course, who is. Oh, by the way, do follow me on the Instagram at Louder with Crowder because I'll be giving away a $1,200 stimulus check.
Yes.
And
better than Shake Shack.
Yes.
You didn't ask
much
for
better than Shake Shack, though you are all laid off.
Ah, well.
And this is something.
Right after the show, of course.
I think this has actually highlighted something to me where we talk about we're all in this together. We're really not. Now, we are all in this together as a country, meaning that we are going. We should be doing everything we can to move forward and support our fellow American. Absolutely. That being said, not everyone is affected the same way, right? And we talked about this before. If I were an 80-year-old diabetic nightclubber, it'd be much harder than someone like me, who, when I'm done with work, I'd pretty much just go home and I watch my shows. So,
and eat your popcorn.
That being said, I will tell you this: when people say we're all in this together, and they talk about the people who are most affected, and they talk about race, and they talk about people who might have less money. All that is true. Different demographics are affected differently. But there is one that I think is being overlooked. And this is something that is pretty important because I think it shows a lack of scale, a lack of actually understanding kind of how the economy works and how it affects people. The big divide, we are not all in this together, and not everyone is a business owner. You need to understand this, that right now, you are affected obviously as an employee. Everyone's affected. But there is a business owner out there. We went through some numbers, like 36% of non-grocery retail-related businesses don't think that they're going to last. These people out there, they worry about their livelihood just like you. I think some people think that business owners have stockpiles of cash. That's clearly not the point. No. Clearly not the case even with Shake Shack, right? They don't have stockpiles of cash upon which they can simply fall back. They're going to lose their living too, but they also have the compression of trying to ensure that they can provide for 10, 15, 50, 200 people. Right? They've built something up so that they can make a living, but all of you make a living. And so when people say, hey, I want to get mine right now. Hey, we're all in this together. Why the business trickle down? Why not from the ground up? Well, hold on a second. Business owners aren't all fat cats. Most of them are certainly not millionaires. Most of them actually aren't making much more than an upper middle class family. And by the way, they should be wealthy if they create a business that adds value to people's lives. But these people will lose their livelihood, just like you will, and they will no longer be able to provide a livelihood for you moving forward. There is a compression right now. We can talk about minorities, we can talk about women, we can talk about old people. But economically, small business owners out there are so disproportionately affected. The amount of stress that they are carrying right now is not even comparable to someone who is going to receive a stimulus check. Everyone has a tough time. I get it. But if you have a business owner and you have a boss who you think is pretty good, you know what? Maybe you should go out there and give him a hug. Don't give him a hug, but give him a virtual hug. Let him know that, hey, you actually appreciate him, because this class warfare really alienates people who are automatically assumed to be daddy warbucks. When I don't think they realize that not only Shake Shack, the business, but what do you think about the guy who's running a local Shake Shack franchise?
Exactly.
I mean, McDonald's, look how much money they make. Sure, absolutely. Or Coca-Cola, absolutely. But what about the bodega owner who sells Coke? right? He employs 3-4 people. He loses his living, and those people lose their living.
Exactly.
And I will tell you this, most employers, just like most people, most cops are good people, most hosts are probably good people. Most government, well, okay, there are some exceptions to the rule, but the point is, most small business owners, or at least a comparable portion of them compared to any other profession, are decent people, and they are concerned of the livelihoods of their employees. So to just tar and feather them because they happen to have reached the privilege of running a business, that's not the kind of message you want to send if you want an economy from hereafter. And speaking of that, I think you were asking me this the other day, Audio. We were talking about Fox News and how they like Chelsea Handler.
Right.
Did I ever tell you about my Fox News? People have been asking me with Bombshell in these shows about my experience there.
No.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
But like, what do you know about?
some
About Roger Ailes.
info about that?
Yeah, someone sent me.
Really?
Yeah,
Give me the
Roger
dirt.
Ailes. Do you want? Well, there's not really much
Are you
dirt.
going to tell the story about when Roger Ailes made you put on a blonde wig?
And rubbed your belly.
He said, show me more of your legs.
He rubbed his belly.
Ew.
Okay. I thought it was a mutual belly rub.
Played with his navel, really.
That's weird.
I just thought he was trying to get lint out of there. Yeah.
Do you hear that? I think that's the Roger Ailes death squad's
Oh
coming
no!
to get us now.
no!
So here's the thing. People ask me about Roger Ailes because now he's been a hot topic. I never met Roger Ailes. I was at Fox News for 4.5 years, somewhere between 4.5 and 5 years total when you add it up. I never met Roger Ailes.
That's interesting.
So I will say this: there's someone there who I have nothing but good things to say about in my personal interactions. She's the president there now at Fox.
Yeah.
Her name is Suzanne Scott. That's public information. She's president. Apparently, she's been doing a really good job. She was kind of the person who brought me in there and showed me the ropes and was really nice, was really supportive. And Bill Shine was there back in the day. I guess he also got caught embroiled in some sort of sexual assault scandal. So I can't speak to all that aside from, listen, there was the leg chair for a reason on these shows, and the Bill O'Reilly thing, he did it. So, but I never met Roger Ailes, and this lady would run interference for me.
Yeah.
And then finally, I was pitching these ideas. One of them was to this guy who really liked Chelsea Handler, and they sort of paired me up with a host to create a show similar to this show at this point. But then they wanted to change it. At one point, there was a suggestion of a monkey on roller skates, which I was like, "That's horrible that you came up with that idea." I think a monkey on roller skates would be funny, but I don't want it on a show. And then finally, she just sits me down and goes like, "Yeah, I know you've been wanting to meet Roger for a while, but it's he doesn't like you." I was like, I was told he doesn't get you. And so he doesn't think you're funny. And I was like, oh, okay, I understand. Okay, so in other words, I'm not going to meet the person who runs this network, who makes all of these determinations as to who gets to host, as to who's a contributor, because he doesn't like the very essence of who I am. As a comedian. So that was my experience. And then there was, I'm pretty sure you can probably run a search and find this. Dennis Miller, I used to do his show quite a bit. Yeah. And Norm Macdonald used to do, they're really close friends. And Dennis Miller had a bit on Bill O'Reilly's show called Miller Time. And it was just, by the way, Dennis Miller, brilliant, hilarious. And it was just an exercise in what, like, Bill O'Reilly, stop speaking, let him finish. Yeah. You're like, listen, I'm trying to get to some material here, Bill, but if you want to go off and talk about, we can do that. That's the cut of your jib. It's like, okay, we get it. Bill, shut up. You have a genius. You're not. Stop. So they were all friends. And one time, Dennis Miller couldn't make his segment, his Miller Time, so Norm filled in.
Oh, boy.
And I loved it. I adored it. If you can go and search Norm Macdonald filling in for Dennis Miller, and of course he's not Dennis Miller, that was a segment tailor-made for him, but Norm he performed as well as he possibly could. He never did it again, from what I understand. At most, he did it twice. And then I heard through the grapevine that Roger Ailes really, really didn't think Norm Macdonald was funny. And that was the greatest compliment anyone has ever paid me, because I was in the same boat. Even though I knew that my career was at a dead end at that network at that point, I felt like I had some kind of a link. Norm Macdonald was a kindred spirit in that Roger Ailes also detested him. So you find validation in the most unlikely of places. This has been Good Morning Mug Club. I appreciate it. Half Asian lawyer Bill Richmond, Gerald A., Audio Wade, Quarter Black Garrett will get you checked out. Dr. Choi, thank you so much. Tune in tonight for, I believe, is it Life Advice? What do we have? We have something going on tonight. And then, of course, loudofbetter.com/schedule. See you later.